Guys, it's Deepak Shukla here from Pearl Lemon Properties, and welcome to video one in this short training series on how to invest in property. If you want to get access to our free training about how exactly you can land a mortgage for less than £100 per month, then just click the link in the description below and go ahead and take a look at our free training. So today I want to talk about, if you're on your property journey, what we're going to be going through in the next dozen plus videos is some of the fundamentals that you need to be aware of if you're going to be making property purchases. If you're someone who's either a new investor or an experienced investor, or you've got a team who are doing investments upon your behalf, I'm pretty hopeful that some of these tips, there's going to be a lot that you're familiar with. There's going to be some things that maybe are going to shed new light on things that you have already considered, as well as there being some completely new stuff. So today we're going to be talking about, as you're on your property journey, about investing into ultimately the fundamentals. Okay, so when I say fundamentals, what is it that I'm talking about? Okay, one of the mistakes that I've often made as a investor is that I don't take the time to look carefully enough at the actual local area. Okay, so depending upon where you're purchasing a property, there's are several considerations that you need to think about to just make sure that it's going to be a space that's going to be or an area that's going to be, viable for the long term. So a couple of things that become really important. So what local actual shops do they have? Okay, if you think about where a property is based, whether you've got a student, whether you've got a family, whether you've got a working professional, do they have the ability to walk out of the house and walk to the shops? Sounds simple, but have you actually had a look on Google Street View to understand how far the walk is to the local off license, to the local news agents, to the local supermarket? Understanding where these shops are does make a big difference to someone's, ultimately to your purchasing decision, because you've got to remember, whilst you're looking at it as an investment, someone's ultimately going to be living in that property. And when you're thinking about the local shops, if there aren't any local shops, is that because most people have cars there and that they wander around? Is it that because, as you know, so that's the standard that also dictates a kind of actual tenant you're going to need? And then, does the house or the flat that you're buying support an actual family for the most part? Because if there's no local amenities, or when it comes to shops, that's sometimes going to be challenging. So you need to really think about that. The next thing alongside shops is, of course, I said the word amenities. What about the local transport links? Okay, so depending upon where you are in the country and depending upon where you're investing into, if you're looking at a place such as London, where we're based, then you're going to be looking really at the tube and the train stops. Okay, tube, train, bus. That's the general rule, I would say. So tube, which is the underground, trains, which is national rail networks, and then the bus, which is your local bus stops and bus services. How does that then transfer to your actual area that you're choosing to invest in? What are the local transport links like? What does it mean to be able to get from one place to another? How easy is it? How far, when leaving your house, do you need to go to walk to an actual transport link? So thinking about your transport links are really important when it comes to considering whether that's going to be a place that someone wants to live in. The third thing to think about is, ultimately, what about local education? Okay, so that would be potentially schools, like primary schools, secondary schools, colleges, universities. So primary, secondary, college, university. Okay, these are the four stages. Maybe nursery, so nursery, primary, secondary, college, university. Like, depending upon who's living there, you want to have one, some, or all of these things in your local area to some degree. Okay, unless of course you've got an elderly population, and then we're looking at a different kind of market. But understanding how far these things are away, how far the walk is, or how far the drive is going to again be important to your actual property investments. Okay, so think about your actual schools. The next thing to think about is major employment places of business. Okay, so what about for example, the healthcare sector? How far Well, let's talk about health as an area. How far is a local hospital? How far is a local GP? You know, how far are these areas? How far are these places when someone gets sickly? How far are they needing to go? What are the ratings of the local actual GPs in the local hospital? Thinking about these elements again can really become an important factor when it comes to deciding whether you're going to invest in that property. And then outside of that, we did reference, of course, the actual employment market. So do we have, for example, a hospital close? Do we have, major public education institutions like a university would be a great source for employment and a great reason to be in the area? What about like company head offices? What about factories? What about town centres? Okay, we'll come back to town centres in a second. But thinking about what there is in terms of actual existing infrastructure for employment is a big thing. Now, if you're within that thinking about the future and what might happen and what might become of the area, then you also want to start to consider, what about new development? What about regeneration? So try and find out from like the local council or the local, borough, or just local newspapers, or anyone that's local, like estate agents, etc., to find out about what are there any planned new developments in the area, like what's going on from a refurbishment, regrowth, regeneration perspective. Thinking about all of these things and understanding what that might do to new job creation, new wealth creation, and ultimately, the increasing or decreasing value of your property can become really, really powerful from a capital gains perspective of your property. Okay, so thinking about these things also is important. The next thing outside of that, as we just mentioned, is how far away are you from the town centre? Okay, how exactly far away are you in the town centre, at the edge of the town centre? Because people want to be, close to where all of these things exist, and they tend to be in a town centre. So they are some of the fundamentals. There are more, but these are a good place to get you started as you begin your property journey. And I'll catch you in the next video where we'll be going through even more property investment tips. See you soon. And please do check out the training or the free education in the link below if you want to find out how to get a mortgage for less than £100 per month with an actual cash flow instantly of up to £500 per month. Thanks.